Hi girls, good morning. So today we're going to look at Amiri Baraka's poem titled Black Art. Now here you get to see Amiri Baraka. Amiri Baraka's original name was Everett, 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 Leroy, Leroy, Everett, Leroy Jones, Jones. So Amiri Baraka's original name was Everett Leroy Jones, Everett, Leroy, Leroy, and Jones. Okay. Now this Amiri Baraka was supposed to be following Malcolm X, and once Malcolm X was killed, he moved on to Harlem, and there he founded this black arts repertory, Repertory, repertory theater or school. So it was Amiri Baraka who formed the black arts repertory or repertory theater or school. Okay, having that in mind, it is also known that Amiri Baraka was called the father of the black arts movement. Amiri Baraka was called the father of the black arts movement. Okay. Now, if you take the career of Amiri Baraka, you get to know that there had been controversies lingering around him. He was into too many controversies, but whatever it is, let's see why he was involved in controversies. If you ask why he was involved in controversies, it was because of two reasons. First is his biting critique on two things. What are they? On liberalism and white Americans' sexuality. I repeat, he was into controversies. Controversies means people always had something to say against whatever Baraka chronicled in his works or elsewhere, spoke publicly. So now, what did he speak in such a controversial manner? எல்லாரும் எதிர்க்கிற அளவுக்கு என்ன பேசினாரு? He spoke on two things. One was liberalism and the other was American whites' sexuality. Okay, now this particular poem, Black Art, has a very violent tone, and it brings out the poet's anger and venom through this poem. So this poem is kind of a very violent poem which really documents the poet's wrath against the oppression of black art. Okay, so now let's see why is this poem called so violent. Of all the poems that I have read so far, I find this poem to be really violent, mainly because you find that the words that he uses are not very melodious. You know that poems are written as lyric poems, and the common themes of normal poems are love or glorification of nature. But this particular poem, take it from the aspect of the theme to the structure of the poem, there is a kind of a rebellion in everything. So he is not writing the themes that the whites or the others normally wrote poems on. One, are you listening to me, girls? மற்றவங்க எல்லாம் எழுதின themes-ஐ வச்சு இவர் எழுதல. Okay, he is not writing in the tone that others normally wrote their poems with. Then he is not following the structure that has been prescribed by the British poets. He has come up with his own poetic structure. So we find that Amiri Baraka, through this particular poem, is creating a space for black art. Or enna solrarna, na white art follow panna maate. So in all aspects, he is not following as white art. அது தீம்ஸாக இருக்கட்டும், அது வந்து ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் ஆஃப் த போமாக இருக்கட்டும், இல்லைன்னா த ரைம் ஸ்கீம் தட் இஸ் ஃபாலோயிங்காக இருக்கட்டும், இல்லைன்னா த vocabulary that he is following இருக்கட்டும், in everything he seems to be differing from the mainstream. And that way Amiri Baraka seems to be creating a black art. And he says, I am capable of creating a wonderful black art, and I want you all African American poets to do the same thing. So girls, because the poem is full of words that cannot be used normally in an ordinary situation, I might just skip those words. So here he begins with it. The violent tone beginning of the poem le theriyudhu. Poems are dash unless they are teeth or trees or lemons piled on a stem. So poems ella waste unless and until they become teeth, okay, pallu irukkum, or trees or lemons. They should be able to, like, there should be some sort of violence in the poetry that they write. Of black ladies dying of men, leaving nickel hearts beating them down. So adlana black ladies, it should be either a poem, or it should, a poem is only a poem becomes a poem only when it has that capacity to criticize others, only when it has the capacity to abuse others, or it should have the boldness of black ladies who really leave behind their men, and they face all sorts of sufferings. Then the 4-letter words, abusive word, dash poems, and they're useful, but they should come at you. Love what you are, breathe like wrestlers, or shudder strangely after peeing. So he's saying, hell with these poems. Okay, I'm not using that particular word that's there in the poem by Amiri Baraka. See, imagine for a black poet to write poem of with such intensity of violence. So he's saying, damn to those poems who are not at all useful unless and until they prick somebody, unless and until they attack someone. Okay, only then the poems are said to be good. Otherwise they're not good at all. Okay, they're not good at all. And so he says, the poems are not at all good. And you find that if the poems are capable of shooting, they should come at you and they should be able to shoot. Okay, the poem should be able to shoot at you, and then the poem should be able to like, they should be able to wrestle with people. So he's saying, if at all you have people who can really, I'm sorry girls, I clicked at something. Okay, I'm back. So if at all the poems have the power to shoot at you, then you write such poems. Otherwise don't write. And if at all the poems have if they can breathe, he personifies poems, and he's saying poems should have the power to breathe. Poems should have the power to bite somebody. They should have teeth with them. Poems should have the breath like restless, the vida mucha. They should wrestle with people, wrestle with what's it called, wrestle with all sorts of people who are against us. Just a minute girls, I shall do one thing. I shall copy this poem all together and then see, just a minute, and then see if it could be pasted on to my Word, so that it's without any distraction. Okay, just a minute girls, I'm sorry about this. I should have thought about it much earlier. Yeah, here we go. Okay, I suppose you don't mind. Just let me check if I can remove that outlining. No, I cannot. because it's copied. Okay, so just forget, ignore those underlining. Okay, so he's saying, so the poem should be able to breathe like restless, or sometimes it should just keep moving. It should just shake the whole self of ours, as we do soon after pissing, okay, soon after urinating, when we shudder. So that way the whole body should be able to move. A poem should be able to move us. Okay, and he's saying we want live words of the hip world, live flesh and coursing blood. So he's saying, how should the poems be? The poems should have such words which have life in them. The poem should have flesh in them. So it should be like you should be able to feel it. The poem should be tangible. The poem should be able to appeal to all your senses, to the extent that it should make your body move through your nerves. That is to say, you should feel your blood. I said body, I'm sorry. You should be able to sense your blood moving up and down your nerves. And he's saying hearts, brains, soul splintering fire. So when you read the poem, it should affect all parts of your body. The hearts, the brains, the souls, and it should just keep you moving. It should just keep you thinking that it should just ignite you. It should just trigger you. The poem should be able to instigate you towards something greater things, okay? Towards achieving a greater goal, especially towards freeing the African Americans. Then he's saying, we want poems like fists. Fists are these. So the poem should be as strong as the fist that could beat a nigger out. So if you are writing a poem, see to it that it moves every nigger. Nigger is a black man, an African American, out of his jocks. Jocks is a shot. A jockey. Jockey is a shot. Okay, shots that you wear. So it should be able to attack, or it should be able to move an African American. It should be like a dagger that's piercing through the slimy belly, slimy bellies of the owner Jews. So it should be able to pass through anybody who instigates racial discrimination. Racial discrimination instigate pannalum against whomever it may be. It may be against the Jews, it may be against the African Americans, whoever it may be. If you write a poem, the poem should have a purpose. The poem should be strong enough to attack the person. It should just pierce through their body, their slimy bellies, like a dagger. Then he's saying, then he's coming on particularly to black art or black poems. Are you listening to me, girls? To black art or to black poems. And he's saying black poems to smear on girdle mama mulatto bitches whose brains are red jelly stuck between Elizabeth Taylor's toes. So you should be able, black writers. So he's exhorting, now he's urging all black writers, all black poets to just touch upon each and every African American, including the women. Women have girdles. Girdles are kind of waist, okay, waist belt. So mamas or the African American women, they wear belts around their girdles, around their waist. So if you write a black poem, it should touch upon that and it should keep them moving. Listen, that Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor is a white American actor. So it should be able to move them. That is to say, all these days, we've read in the previous text how black people, we saw that in that particular essay just that we did recently. That racial mountain, which talks about the racial mountain as a barrier. So he's saying there are many of our black Americans or African Americans who are inspired by the whites. So whatever poetry or whatever art you write, create, that should see to it that it has an impact firstly upon whom? Firstly upon all the black American women, so that they know that their art is of greater value than anybody else's. Then he goes on to say, stinking dash. We want poems that kill. So what sort of poem should you write? You should write poems that really takes the life out of some people. They should be assassin poems. So they should be assassin poems. They should be poems that shoot guns. So tupaki vachi shoot panna, you know how many people will be dying. So a poem should have that power, that vigor to attack people, whoever reads it. Okay, poems that wrestle cops into alleys. So you know that even whenever there are racial prejudices, the white cops do not treat the African Americans in a right way. So he's saying you should be able to write a poem that will attack the cops who are kind of inflicting pain on the African Americans in the alleys. Alleys are narrow lanes, and take their weapons, leaving them dead. So நீங்க எழுதுற poems ஒரு cop கூட attack பண்ணும், and in the sense that it should leave them dead, and they should be they should not have that they should be they should be deprived of their weapon. So அந்த மாதிரி அளவுக்கு it should attack, with tongues pulled out and sent to island knockoff. So if they are dying, they should die out of shame. They should die out of humiliation for all the suffering, for all the pains that they had inflicted upon whom? Upon the African Americans. So he's again going on to say, poems for dope selling wops. Dopes are drugs. So you should be writing poems that will just bring down the level of drugs that are sold here. And slick half white. Wop is a kind of an offensive term. Slick is something that is to say to move smoothly, or slick half white politicians airplane poems. So he's saying you should be able to write poems that are capable of changing politics, or politics there should be able to a transition should be able to be created. So you should be able to create a transition in politics. அந்த அளவுக்கான ஒரு poem எழுதுங்க. Then he uses irrita and all that, setting fire and death to whitey's dash. So when you write a poem, it should just ignite. Okay, that way, in all aspects, on all parts of the body, the white should suffer. Look at the liberal spokesman for the Jews, clutch his throat and puke himself to eternity. Puke means throw up, to vomit. So he's saying, when the Jews clutch the liberals' throat, liberal spokesman's throat, how they puke, how they throw out, that way a poem should be able to affect somebody. Then he's saying, there's a Negro leader pinned to a bar stool and Sadi's eyeballs melting in hot flame. Sadi's is a kind of a cold thing. So look at that Negro leader. How is he speaking? Maybe he's referring to Malcolm X, or he's referring to any other great leader. Okay, so he's saying, look at those leaders, how they're speaking, how their eyeballs, which are as cold as they appear, are melting into hot flame. And he's pointing out another Negro leader, and he's saying, another Negro leader on the steps of the White House, one leaning between the sheriff thighs, negotiating coolly for his people. So anga parunga, or leader parunga, look at his eyes, that paaka coola theriyra eyes. How is it turning into how is it turning it into, or what is it turning into? Apdi coola chilla irukra eyeballs, it's turning into hot flame. Avlo heated is arguing, avlo vengeance, avlo what to say, determination order. He's talking with his for his people, and for whose people, for his people, and in the race African American people one Negro leader is fighting. Look at another Negro leader, what is he doing? And the White House order steps in it, he's fighting between the sheriffs, and he's talking with them, negotiating with them. Yarkaha? For his own people. And his own people who? For the African Americans. Then he said, stumbled across the room, put it on him, poem, strip him naked. Poem apostrophe address pandar. Hey poem, come on, strip him naked. You just bring lay bare all his all his attitudes, unmask his feelings. அவனை naked strip பண்ணுங்க. That means to say not physically, but he has so many ill intentions within his heart. Strip all of them and show it to the world. He has so many crooked thoughts. Strip all of them and make it known to the world. அது எதால பண்ண முடியும்? Only a poem can do. So he wants the poem to be as violent as possible. Okay, and he's saying another bad poem, cracking steel knuckles in a Jew lady's mouth. Poem scream poison gas and on beasts in green beret. So he's saying there is African American writers, he exhorts them, he urges them, he asks them, he implores them to create black art or black poem in such a way that they're capable of showcasing the inner bad intentions or inner evil intentions of the whites in a very what to say, in a very not in a pleasant way as much as in a very scheming way should be. Okay, then he's saying, I don't know if I can use the word scheming, but still he's saying, see to it that the poem does the task of exposing the ill intentions of people. Adha matter. Okay, then he's saying, create a poem that will just directly go and hit the Jew lady's mouth. Create a poem that will kind of scream a poison gas, or the poem vaachale poisonous gas போகணும். யாருக்கு அஃபெக்ட் ஆகணும்? It should affect the beasts. யார் இருக்கா? green beret na இந்த நம்ம you see our NCC cadets wearing a soft kind of a cap. Okay, soft round cap NCC cadets போடுறது பார்த்திருக்கீங்களா? Not the hard one the police constables, the police inspectors wear. Berets na வந்து அந்த soft cap. அப்ப green berets are usually worn by the member of the US Army. And the US Army ல உள்ள members தான் he's calling beasts. என்ன போட்டிருக்காங்க? beasts in green berets. So அந்த மாதிரி green berets ல இருக்க அந்த beasts இந்த poems எப்படியா போகணும்? ஒரு poisonous gas ஆ போகணும். So அது ஒண்ணு. Next task, let the poems that you write, the black artists create. A poem is a black art, right, Amma? And whatever the black artist, whoever creates this should be creates a black art should be a black artist. The black artist should be able to clean the world, okay, with his black poem, so that there is only virtue and love. And he's saying, so let not poems let there be no love poems written. So in the name of love poems eldren, as I told you earlier, all the white men want to like short hymns, sonnets, or short lyrics, all based on love. Then he's saying, why should you write love poems? Do not write love poems. If at all you're going to write love poems, ensure that love can exist. எப்படி? freely and cleanly. So freely and cleanly, if love can exist, அப்ப நீ love poems எழுது. Otherwise you don't write. Then he's saying, let black people understand that they are the lovers and the sons of warriors and sons of warriors. அப்ப black poor people என்ன புரிஞ்சுக்கணும்? basically they are lovers and sons. யாரோட lovers and sons? Not of ordinary people, not of people who will go in a subdued way. They are not lovers or sons of people who love to be subservient. No, they are lovers and sons of warriors and sons of warriors. Okay, so அத மனசுல வச்சிட்டு இருக்கோம். நம்ம எப்படியாப்பட்ட lineageல இருந்து வந்திருக்கோம், நம்ம எப்படியாப்பட்ட ஃபேமிலில இருந்து வந்திருக்கோம். We are not people, we are not sons born into a family where there were only very muffled people. Muffled and வாயை மூடிட்டு இருந்த people மத்தியில நம்ம பிறக்கல. Okay, we were born into a family of warriors. So நம்ம எப்படி இருக்கணும்? We should also be warriors. Our poems and poets and all the loveliness here in the world. So we of warriors and sons of warriors are poems. So நம்ம இப்ப எழுதுற poems எப்படி இருக்கணும்? They should be born out of poems and poets and all the loveliness here in the world. Poems, world, loveliness, எல்லா வேர்ல்ட்ல இருக்க loveliness-ஐயும் create பண்ணாங்க நம்ம people earlier. same thing we should also carry. So that lineage we should be carrying. So he exhorts or he implores all black artists or all African American poets to write poems, not love poems. He's saying, no, please stop writing love poems. When you write love poems, you are deceiving yourself. You are not in the proper, you cheat panikira. Okay, so if you want to write love poems, write in a way, write only when love can exist very freely, free clean in the world. Therefore, he's saying, if at all you want to clean this world, you have to purify this world only through violence. And that violence you can cause through your poems, through your literary works. Okay. So is there anything? Then he's saying, he asks all the African Americans to join together, to come together as a unified movement, which has nothing or which has no influences of the white people. So I repeat, so through this poem, Amiri Baraka is exhorting all African Americans to come together jointly as a unified movement that has no influence of the whites. I hope you understand, girls. Now, African Americans are சேர்ந்திருந்து ஒரு movement ஆரம்பிச்சாதான் நம்மளோட movement ஆரம்பிக்கணும். அந்த movementல there should not be the influence of the whites. Only then we can succeed to be good writers, he say. Okay, so that's the important message that he leaves for his own black community. Right? So here in this particular poem, he's trying to highlight the racial injustice in a very aggressive and a polemical way. In a very aggressive, so he tries to talk about the racial discrimination in a very aggressive and a polemical way. What's the meaning of the word polemical? Polemical, in a very strong and critical way. So I repeat, the message to the African American community is that they all need to come together in a unified way as a movement of black arts without the influence of the whites. அதை எப்படி எக்ஸ்பிரஸ் பண்றாரு இந்த போம்ல in a very aggressive and in a polemical way. Okay, girls, I hope you understood this. In case you have any doubts with regard to this particular poem, ping me personally, ping me in the WhatsApp group that's been created, and you can also leave your observations in the Google Classroom that has been created for you. Okay, girls, hope you understood this particular poem and you can realize the intensity and the vigor with which the poet writes this poem also. So, ultimately, I just want to highlight one aspect that Amiri Baraka wants to see all his black people striving hard to reach the success in life through reality, okay, through reality or combating fighting reality, okay. So he wants all of them to undertake or to engage in meaningful actions that can help or that can facilitate the promotion of black art. Okay, girls, so thank you so much. Have a good day. So in case you have anything more to say, just ping me up personally. Thank you. Bye.